What legal problem arises when an autonomous AI system causes harm?
The main problem is determining who should be legally responsible. For example, if a self-driving car injures a pedestrian or a robot doctor makes a wrong diagnosis, the law must decide who should compensate the victim and who should be blamed for the harm.
Why is legal responsibility important? Legal responsibility has both retrospective and preventative functions. Retrospectively, it helps victims obtain compensation and allows society to assign blame for wrongful conduct. Prospectively, it encourages people and companies to act carefully in order to avoid causing harm. How does traditional law usually deal with harm caused by humans?
Traditional legal systems can hold people responsible through criminal law or tort law. For example, a person who harms someone through negligence or carelessness may face criminal punishment or be required to compensate the injured person.
Why does AI challenge traditional ideas of legal responsibility? Traditional responsibility is often based on human free will, control, and intention. However, autonomous AI systems can learn from their environment, adapt over time, and make decisions that may not be fully predictable or controllable by humans.
Can an AI system itself be held legally responsible? At present, it's generally difficult to hold an AI system legally responsible in a practical sense. A machine cannot easily be punished, blamed, or required to pay compensation in the same way as a human being or a company.
Should the developer of an AI system always be liable for harm caused by it? Not necessarily. Developers may be responsible when they design unsafe products or act negligently. However, machine learning systems can change after deployment, making their future behavior difficult to predict. It may therefore be unfair to hold developers liable when they took all reasonable precautions, but the systems still caused unexpected harm. Why are machine learning systems especially difficult to regulate?
Machine learning systems are dynamic. They learn from data and adapt to the environments in which they operate. This makes it difficult for developers, users, and regulators to predict exactly how the system will behave in every situation.
What is the problem of opacity in AI systems?
Opacity means that it can be difficult or even impossible to understand why an AI system reached a particular result. Even developers may not be able to explain the reasoning behind an AI decision. This makes it harder to identify mistakes and assign responsibility.
What is strict liability, and why can it be controversial in AI cases?
Strict liability means that a person or company can be held responsible even if they were not negligent. It can create strong incentives to ensure safety. However, it may be controversial in AI cases because autonomous systems cannot always be fully controlled, and excessive liability could discourage innovation in the use of beneficial technology.
Who might be responsible when an AI system causes damage?
Possible responsible parties may include the developer, manufacturer, owner, operator, user, or organization deploying the system. However, responsibility depends on the facts of the case, such as who designed the system, who controlled it, who used it, and whether reasonable precautions were taken.
Why may traditional liability rules be insufficient for AI cases?
Traditional liability rules focus mainly on identifying a person who caused the harm. In AI cases, it may be difficult to find one clearly responsible actor. Therefore, liability alone may not be enough to ensure compensation for victims or prevent future harm.
What alternative legal approaches could be used?
One approach is mandatory insurance. Developers or users could be required to purchase insurance that compensates victims when no single person can be held legally responsible. Another approach is to require precautionary measures, such as safety testing, risk assessments, monitoring, and human oversight.
How can proactive regulation help manage AI risks?
Proactive regulation focuses on preventing harm before it occurs. Instead of waiting for an accident and then assigning blame, the law can require developers and users to identify risks, implement safety measures, and monitor AI systems throughout their use.
Should AI regulation be left entirely to the technology industry?
No. Industry standards and voluntary responsible AI principles can be useful, but they are usually not enough on their own. Legal regulation is needed to ensure accountability, compensation, safety, and protection of the public interest.
What is meant by electronic personhood?
Electronic personhood is the idea that highly autonomous machines could one day receive a special legal status. This might make it possible to treat certain AI systems as legal entities for limited purposes, such as holding assets or bearing certain legal responsibilities. However, this remains a theoretical and controversial idea.
What is the main conclusion about AI and legal responsibility?
AI does not make law less important. Instead, it requires new legal solutions. Traditional liability rules will remain relevant, but they may need to be supplemented by insurance schemes, safety obligations, preventative regulation, and new approaches to accountability.